They say the desert forgets, that out here time doesn't rot, it just dries out. I used to believe that. But the desert doesn't forget. It keeps things preserved. Mistakes, memories, voices. My name's Earl Maddox, County Sheriff, 27 years. The night it happened, I was driving an empty stretch of Highway 19 chasing a call I should have ignored. A woman's voice on the 911 line. Calm, quiet. She said, "He's coming back." Palms, then silence. Dispatch gave me the coordinates, an old mining town called San Florencio, officially abandoned since '87. I remember laughing under my breath. Nobody lives there, not anymore. But protocol's protocol, so I went. The cruiser hummed against the blacktop and the stars leaned close enough to feel heavy. I kept the radio tuned low, just static and my thoughts. Sometimes you can hear things in that static, whispers that sound like your own voice saying words you don't remember thinking. The sign appeared around mile marker 40, rusted, half buried in sand. Silence, San Florencio, it used to say, but the middle letters had peeled away. Now it read, San Fencio. I slowed down, rolled the window a crack. The air smelled like burnt sage and wet iron, like a storm that never came. Dispatch tried to reach me once more, but the line went dead. Not noise, not even static, just a sound like someone holding their breath. I told myself it was nothing. Crimson check, clear the area, head home, simple. But the road kept stretching longer than it should. The headlights barely touched the dark, and when I finally saw the town, it was like seeing something that had been waiting for me. San Fencio looked smaller than I expected. A handful of buildings, the church, the diner, the sheriff's substation. All still standing, like people holding their breath for 30 years. I stopped in the middle of Main Street, turned off the engine. The desert swallowed the sound. I opened the door and stepped out. My boots sank into the dust. I scanned the storefronts, flashlight shaking slightly in my hand, though I pretended it wasn't. Every window had the same look, like a closed eye, pretending to sleep. Then I saw it. A pair of headlights down the road. Still, dim, pointed straight at me. Another cruiser. I froze. The shape of it, the markings, even the dent on the bumper, it was mine. Not another model, not another year. Mine. For a long time I just stared. The engine wasn't running, but I could smell the heat off the hood. My first thought was that someone had stolen it. My second thought, the one that made my throat go dry, was that maybe I hadn't arrived yet. I called out, "County Sheriff, identify yourself." No response. Just the sound of the wind pushing sand across metal. I stepped closer. The reflection of my flashlight trembled across the windshield, but it didn't show my face. It showed a shadow sitting in the driver's seat, still, upright, hands on the wheel. I pulled the handle. The door swung open, easy, empty. No driver. Keys still in the ignition. Radio on. The speaker crackled, then a faint voice came through, a whisper. "Sheriff, you shouldn't be here." I stumbled back. The voice. It wasn't the woman from the 911 call. It was me. My hand shook. I lifted the mic, said, "Who is this?" Nothing. Then, just barely above the static. "Not real. Real. Not real." I killed the engine, stepped away from the car, and tried to radio dispatch again. Still dead. My flashlight flickered once, twice, then steadied. The beam landed on the sheriff's substation up ahead. The door hung slightly open. I told myself it was just wind. That's what you do when things stop fitting into reason. You name them wind. You name them echoes. You give them shapes that can't hurt you. I holstered my weapon, clicked on the body cam, and started walking. Parade substation looked like it hadn't aged a day since the 80s. Badge emblems still above the door, glass cracked but unbroken. Inside, the air was thick, warmer than it should have been. Smelled faintly of coffee, paper, and something like smoke. I swept the light across the room, dust everywhere, files, empty cups, and on the far wall, a photo frame. Me. Marginalized. Clean-shaven. Standing in front of this very building, arms slung around another deputy I didn't recognize. Caption underneath. Deputy Earl Maddox, 1986. Sympathy. My pulse went uneven. I stepped back and nearly tripped over something, an old radio. Its power light was glowing faint red, though it wasn't plugged in. I leaned down. The speaker popped once and a woman's voice poured out, soft and cracked. "He's coming back." The same words from the call. Smith. The same voice. Then silence. Outside, the desert shifted. I could feel it through the soles of my boots, like something huge had turned over beneath the sand. I looked through the window. The second cruiser, the one that looked like mine, was gone. Only tire tracks remained. Simmons. One coming in, one leaving. But the strange part? They both had the same tread pattern. Mine. That's when I realized the air had changed. Not colder, not warmer, just heavier, like the world had stopped breathing. And beneath that weight, beneath the hum, I could hear something faint. Knocking. From inside the jail cells at the back of the substation. Slow. Careful. I took a single step toward it before the lights died. Completely. The dark came quick, like a hand over my face. And from somewhere behind the cells, I heard my own voice whisper again. "Earl, you promised you'd come back." 68. Last movie. I should have run, but I didn't. Because the desert doesn't forget. It just waits for you to remember what you left behind. The step inside that station felt heavier than it should have. The air was thick, warm, almost wet. You know that smell before a thunderstorm? That was it. Ozone and metal and something sweet hiding underneath, like old fruit left on a windowsill. The flashlight beating quivered along the walls. Wanted posters yellowed to parchment. Filing cabinets bent in on themselves like tired men. A bulletin board with faded thumbtacks and one cracked photograph pinned to the center. It showed the sheriff's department staff, 6 of them. The faces blurred from age except one, mine. Smiling, 20-something, badge straight. It couldn't be me, but it was. Same scar over the eyebrow, same tie clip I still wear. I leaned closer until my breath fogged the glass. Underneath, faint pencil scratches spelled something that didn't belong on an old department photo. You stayed. The floor creaked above me. Unmarried, it wasn't wind, it was weight. Salmon was walking up there, slow, deliberate, counting the steps like a ritual. I called out, County Sheriff, anyone up there? Silence. Then from somewhere beyond the staircase, a door clicked shut. Miss CNN with the main office one last time. A row of dusty coffee mugs, a half-burned candle melted to the desk, a single notebook lying open. The handwriting wasn't mine, but the badge number written across the top was my badge number. The last line on the page read, "Don't answer when they knock." I wanted to close the book and walk back to my cruiser, but the problem was, I didn't know which cruiser was mine anymore. I climbed the stairs, one hand on the rail. Each board sagged, complaining. At the top, the hallway was narrow, suffocating, lined with mirrors, too many for a building this size. Each one warped and spotted, showing versions of the same man. Me. Older in one, younger in another. Some with different badges. I lifted the flashlight and the beam jumped across the mirrors until it stopped on the last one. That reflection didn't move when I did. I once, twice. The man in the mirror just stared back, head tilted, smile wrong. Then softly, his lips moved. "You're late." I spun around, nearly lost my footing. Nothing there, just the whisper of dust falling through light. I steadied myself, pressed a hand against the wall. Warm again, like the place was breathing. When I turned back, the mirror was cracked straight through the center, a single vertical line. My reflection split cleanly in half. Something shifted at the end of the hall, the sound of paper scraping across the floor. I followed it to a small office. Inside, a desk, a broken chair, and a child's drawing tacked crooked to the wall. Crayon. Colors faded to ghosts. It showed a man in a tan uniform holding a girl's hand beneath a big yellow sun. They were smiling. Written beneath in clumsy letters, "Me and Daddy." My flashlight trembled. I whispered, "No." I didn't know who I was saying it to. Maybe myself. Maybe to whatever had drawn that picture. On the desk lay a small tape recorder half buried in dust. I pressed play. At first, nothing. Then a man's voice, rough, broken. "It's my fault," he said. "She kept knocking. I heard her for days after. I told her to stop, but she wouldn't stop." A pause. "She wanted to come in." The tape hissed, then clicked off. My fingers shook so badly I nearly dropped it. I turned toward the door, ready to leave, to run, to breathe. But the doorway was no longer empty. A shape stood there, just the outline of a woman in the beam of my light, long hair moving even though the air was still. She didn't look at me. She looked through me. "Sheriff," she whispered, "you came back." I froze. Couldn't even swallow. Every instinct screamed to speak, to move, but I couldn't. Her voice had gravity. "Who are you?" I managed. She stepped forward once, just one slow step, the sound of bare feet against wood. Her eyes glinted. "You know." Then she was gone, just gone, like a frame of film missing from the reel. The door was stumbled back down the stairs. My flashlight beam jittered against the wall, catching something new. Fresh footprints in the dust. Small, bare. Leading toward the jail cells. I followed, each step louder in the quiet. The cells stood open except one. That door was closed, rust eating the hinges. On the metal, faint letters scratched deep. Stay. I reached out and brushed the grooves with my thumb. The metal burned cold. From behind the door came a sound. Light at first, then clearer. A child humming. I felt the world tilt. For a second, I wasn't in San Florencio. I was in my old house 30 years ago, standing outside my daughter's room, listening to her hum before bed. The same song. I whispered her name before I knew I was doing it. The humming stopped. Then a voice, higher, softer, answered from behind the cell door. "Daddy?" My throat closed. The flashlight fell, rolling across the floor, spinning light around the room in dizzy circles. The humming began again, closer now, pressed right against the steel. "Daddy," it said again, small and patient. "You came back for me." I stumbled backward, grabbed the flashlight and ran for the door. Outside, the wind had changed direction. It came from the west now, colder, sharper, carrying. That same burnt sage smell. The lights on my cruiser flickered, once, twice, then steadied, bathing the street in red and blue. And in the glare, across the road, I saw her again. The woman, standing perfectly still. Her lips moved, but I couldn't hear the words. Then, just for an instant, the lights blinked, and she wasn't alone. The little girl was standing beside her, both of them watching me, both of them smiling. They were standing under the flicker of my cruiser lights, the woman and the girl, not moving, not breathing. The wind blew right through them, but their hair didn't stir. My hand hovered near my holster. I wasn't sure if I meant to draw or to hold myself steady. "Ma'am," I said, voice cracked and too loud. "You need to step back from the vehicle." No reaction. Just those faces, washed red, then blue, then red again. Then the girl raised her hand, slow, deliberate, like a wave. That small, simple motion almost broke me. I took a step forward and the cruiser lights blinked out. Total darkness. The kind that presses right against your eyes. The next sound was her voice, the woman's, right beside my ear, though no one stood there. "You shouldn't have come back." I turned, flashlight cutting through dust. Nothing. When I turned back, they were gone. Silence. The air fell heavy again, thick with static. I could taste it, that metallic tang of electricity before lightning. The sky above the town was starless now, as if someone had turned the heavens inside out. I climbed into the cruiser, needed the door between me and everything else. Engine on, radio dead. The dashboard clock blinked 3:12, then 3:12 again, then nothing. I checked the rearview mirror and froze. Someone sat in the back seat. The siblings, head bowed, hands folded, pale skin glowing faint in the red wash from the taillights. "Who's back there?" My voice was more air than sound. "This vehicle is restricted." The figure lifted its head, and for a heartbeat I saw my own face staring back. I turned drawn, door flying open, and the back seat was empty. only the seatbelt swinging like it had just been released. The air inside grew warm. Too warm. The smell of burnt sage again, heavy and sweet. The radio crackled to life. The child's voice whispered through the static. "Daddy's here." I killed the ignition and stumbled out. The desert felt alive. The wind moving in pulses instead of gusts. The sand underfoot shifted like breath. "Not real," I muttered. "Real, not real." Shipping helped for about 3 seconds. Then I saw the light, the dim glow flickering from the diner across the street. A single neon tube sputtering inside the window, painting the word "open" in a ghost's heartbeat. Every instinct said walk away. Every rule said check it. Immigration. The diner's door hung open by one hinge. The bell above it gave a half-hearted ring like a memory of one. Inside, everything was still in place. Coffee cups on the counter, napkin dispensers, a menu board with prices from another century. And in the booth by the window, someone had been sitting there recently. A cup of coffee still steaming. I reached out. The mug was warm, too warm to have been sitting there long. That's when the jukebox clicked on. Asias, a country song, warped and slow, started playing. "I'll be home someday." I stood there, staring at the booth, the coffee, the door swinging slightly on its hinge. "Who's here?" I called. No answer. Then a voice, low and calm behind me. "You never left." I turned fast, gun raised, and found myself looking at the reflection in the jukebox glass. But it wasn't me this time. Not exactly. The man had my uniform, my badge, even my face, just younger, cleaner. He smiled. "You keep coming back, Earl. You keep forgetting." I took a step back, the floor groaning under me. "Who are you?" I asked. The reflection tilted its head. "Who do you think?" Then his hand, my hand, reached out through the glass, pressing against the inside surface. The jukebox light pulsed brighter, the song slurred, and the air went cold enough to make my teeth ache. I stumbled backwards, slamming into a booth. The reflection didn't vanish. It stayed there, smiling, mouthing words I couldn't hear. Until finally, his lips formed 3 syllables I could read even in the distortion, pressing, "Help me." The jukebox light snapped off. Only my own pale face looked back at me. And behind me, the woman's voice again, close enough to feel the breath of it. "You promised you'd come back for her." I spun, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. The door to the kitchen swung open just enough to show movement. I stepped closer. The smell hit first. Dust, old oil, and something faintly floral. The kitchen was empty except for a single plate on the counter. On it, a child's drawing. Another one. This one showed the diner, 2 figures sitting in a booth, a red sun overhead. Written in thick crayon, "Dinner with Daddy." The handwriting. I knew it. I didn't want to, but I did. I backed away toward the front door. But before I reached it, the jukebox came alive again. Only this time, it wasn't music. It was a voice. Mine. Record scratch rough, looped, wrong. "I left the door open," it said. "I left the door open," stripping and over. Louder outside, the wind. The diner strobed red and blue again, my cruiser lights flickering back to life. Unless I ran outside, half to breathe, half to escape my own voice. The cruiser's headlights were on now, both beams cutting through dust, but the driver's side door was wide open, and sitting in the front seat was the little girl. She was holding the notebook I'd found earlier, the one with my badge number. She smiled when she saw me. "Daddy wrote everything down for you." Then she closed the book and vanished. For a long time I just stood there, staring at the empty seat where the girl had been. The cruiser's engine was off, but the light stayed on, steady, bright, humming like something alive. The Unmarried was still there, sitting open on the passenger seat, pages fluttering even though there was no wind. I reached for it, slow, like it might bite. Inside, the handwriting changed, line after line of blocky, uneven script. "You left the door open. You left the door open. You left the door open." Over and over, page after page. I flipped to the last one, in smaller writing, like a whisper pressed into paper. Slashing. "We're still inside." The desert went completely quiet. No wind, no bugs, no sound at all. Silence in the desert isn't peace. It's pressure. You start hearing your pulse in your teeth. I looked toward the town, and for the first time, I realized something was wrong with it. The buildings weren't where they'd been. The diner had shifted. It was closer now. The church steeple was taller. The whole layout felt wrong, like someone had picked up the town and dropped it a few feet to the left. Not real, not real. I climbed out of the cruiser and shut the door behind me. The lights died toward Main Street. The ground crunched, or it tried to. Each step sank deeper than the one before, like the sand wanted to hold me there. Halfway across street, I saw movement. A man standing in front of the church. He wore my uniform, my hat, even had the same tilt to his walk. "Hey!" I shouted. "Hold it right there!" He didn't run, didn't even flinch. He just lifted his hand, not to wave, not to threaten, just lifted it like he was testing if it was real. I raised my flashlight and the beam hit his badge. Same number as mine, same scratches. He smiled. Tape clicked again, and another sound replaced it, something heavy sliding like a door dragging across concrete. Then a faint knock. Knocking, rhythmic, slow. The sound came from behind the altar. I shone my light and saw the outline of a trapdoor half covered by a rotted carpet. I pulled it back, found a handle, and lifted. A wilderness of cold air rolled out, damp and stale. There were stairs leading down, wooden, narrow, ending in darkness. "Not real," I whispered again. My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. I clicked on the body cam. The red light blinked. Somehow that comforted me. Evidence meant reality. Each step down creaked like bones. The air grew colder, the smell stronger, earth and something old. At the bottom, a small room opened up, walls lined with filing cabinets, sheriff records, tags still attached. But these weren't old files. They were new. Each folder labeled with a year: 1986, 1997, 2008, 2019. Each one labeled Earl Maddox. I opened one. Inside, photos. Dozens of them. All of me. Different ages, Same uniform, same expression. Empty. And in every picture standing just behind me, the same woman, pale, watching. The tape recorder upstairs started again on its own. I could hear it through the floorboards, my voice repeating, "You can't close what's already open." Then, knocking again, louder. Not from the altar this time, from the filing cabinets. Then drawers rattled one by one, like something inside wanted out. "Not real," I said again. "Not real." But my hand reached for the nearest handle anyway. The metal was freezing. I pulled it open. Inside wasn't paper. It was dust. Gray, soft, moving like breath. And on top of that pile, a badge. Mine. The drawer slammed shut on its own. I stumbled backward, flashlight shaking. Then in the narrow beam of light I saw her, the woman, standing at the far end of the room, half in shadow, half in memory. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked softly. I don't know what this is," I said. Her face softened, almost pitying. "You do." Behind her something shifted, a door I hadn't noticed before. Its frame shimmered faintly like heat off asphalt. She pointed to it. "You left it open." And then she was gone. The door pulsed once, twice, as if breathing. The whispers came again. Children's voices this time. "Come back, Daddy. Please come back." I took one step closer, then another. My hand hovered over the doorframe, the air humming like a live wire. And before I could pull away, the door opened on its own. Selfish inside wasn't empty. It was full of movement. And then something cold brushed my hand and whispered, "Welcome home." Static hum crescendo, heartbeat thudding, wind howling. Meaningless. Static hum low, heartbeat steady but distant. Behind that door wasn't black. It moved, like heat waves under ice, rippling, breathing, alive. My flashlight struggled to touch it. The beam seemed to sink and disappear. I stepped inside. The temperature dropped so fast it stole the breath right out of me. The door closed on its own, sealing with a sound like air locking in a vault. The light found walls of rough stones. Not words, not pictures, just marks. Deep grooves like someone had been counting days or waiting for something to end. The whispers returned, low, layered, impossible to place. Some sounded far away, others brushed right against my ear. "You left us. You left us." I tried to steady my voice. "Who's there?" One whisper separated from the rest, clearer, closer. "You know who." Then the beam of my light caught something ahead, a shape slumped against the far wall. A man. "Sir?" I called out, forcing duty to mask the fear. "Sheriff's Department." No response. I moved closer. His uniform. It was mine. The same badge, the same jacket. He was me. I froze. The body was seated, head bowed, one hand clutching a short. Cold. Not skin cold. stone cold. When I pressed the play button, the tape clicked, hissed, then my own voice spilled out, raw, tired. They never left. The door won't shut. Don't open it again. The sound looped, repeating, glitching. The door won't shut. Don't open it again. I dropped the recorder. My pulse was hammering in my throat now. I turned toward the stairs, ready to leave, but there were no stairs anymore. Just a smooth wall where they'd been. Not real, I whispered. Not real. But the air was changing again. The walls pulsed, exhaling cold chalk. Circles, loops, spirals, repeating patterns that made my head ache to look at. I rattled the bars. "Let me out!" The woman tilted her head. "You left the door open, Earl. The town never closed. It only waits for you to remember." Jamie humming started again, that same tune, soft, fragile, looping like a nursery rhyme missing its end. The woman turned toward her. "He doesn't remember you?" Paranoia looked up, and for a second her eyes weren't a child's eyes at all. They were old, endless, like the desert itself. Then, careless. The air imploded, pulling me forward, and I was outside again, standing in the middle of Main Street. My cruiser gone, the sky still black. Except now, there were dozens of cruisers, all parked, all identical. Red and blue lights pulsing in perfect synchronization, stretching down the road like a funeral parade. Each one had a driver slumped behind the wheel. Me. All of them. Me. The radios inside each car began to click alive, one after another, creating a rising storm of static and whispers. "Earl Maddox, come in. Earl Maddox, respond. Earl Maddox," overlapping, multiplying. I covered my ears, but it didn't stop. The sound was inside my skull now, pressing against bone. Then, silence. All at once. Every cruiser's light shut off. Every engine died. And from the dark I heard the girl's voice one last time, clear, close, behind me. "You left the door open, Daddy." Then, slowly, the woman stood there again, her hand resting on the child's shoulder. Both of them smiling that same patient smile. "What do you want?" I asked. Her voice was almost gentle. "We don't want anything. We're what you left behind." Then the streetlights flared white, the desert wind screamed through the town, and every cruiser's siren came alive at once. A wall of sound, blinding, deafening. Overlapping, when it stopped, they were gone. The town was gone. I was standing alone in the desert again, my flashlight flickering weakly. The radio crackled once. The voice, my dispatcher's, said, "Sheriff Maddox, you out there? We just got a 911 call from San Florencio. A woman's voice. Said he's coming back." A long pause, wind fading to silence. I lifted the mic, hand trembling. "This is Maddox," I whispered. "Copy that." Then I looked ahead, and the sign came into view again, half buried in sand. San Florencio. Same place, same night. The radio hissed, the voice repeated, "He's coming back," and I realized the words weren't for me. They were about me, said. Bleak didn't look real anymore. The sky was a flat, bruised black, and the horizon bent in places like the heat was folding the world back on itself. I stood there too long, long enough for the silence to start sounding like words. My cruiser was gone again. No tracks, no dust disturbed. Just me, the empty road, and the old town flickering like a mirage in and out of focus. Not real, I whispered. Real, not real. Somewhere behind me a door slammed, then another, then another. I turned and the town wasn't empty anymore. The lights in the buildings flickered one by one, yellow, soft, human. I could hear people moving, laughter, dishes clinking, the hum of an old jukebox drifting through the air. I took a step closer. The sound didn't come from one direction, it came from everywhere. Each step forward shifted the town around me, like walking across a reflection in moving water. I took a stand, lights flared. Through the window I saw silhouettes, people sitting at booths, heads bent, hands moving, laughing without sound. The waitress walked between tables, her face turned away. I blinked, and they all looked up at once. Every single one of them had my face. Their smiles didn't reach their eyes, just rows of identical me, sitting quietly in a loop that didn't need me to exist. I stumbled back, breath shaking. The air behind me shifted again, a door creaking open somewhere close. I turned the flashlight toward the sound. The church stood wide open, candles burning bright in every window. I could smell the smoke from here, sweet and thick like burning sage. It called to me, not with words, but with memory. Inside, the pews were filled now, every seat taken. But the faces, God, the faces. They were all versions of me. Different ages, different uniforms. Some younger, some older. Some still breathing. They all turned their heads in perfect unison as I entered. The woman stood at the altar again, dressed in white now, the child beside her holding a small black book. She smiled like a mother seeing her son home from war. "Welcome back, Earl." I wanted to ask who she was, but I already knew. She lifted the book. "We've been waiting for you to close it." The congregation, all the other me's, began to whisper together, voices layered and broken. "Close it, close it, close it." I shouted, "Close what?" The child opened the book, pages blank, but something shimmered beneath them, like words written in water. I could almost read them before they vanished. Names, dates, mine, repeated over and over across years that shouldn't exist. The woman took a step forward. "This town only lives when you come back. You keep the door open." Her eyes glowed faintly in the candlelight, gold like desert sun through dust. "You have to remember what you did." I shook my head. "I don't know what you're talking about." She didn't answer. She just looked at the child. The girl tilted her head. "Show him." The candles blew out. Darkness fell, complete, absolute. The world disappeared except for the sound of my heartbeat and the child's humming. That same tune again. Missing, when the lights returned, I was standing outside the church, except it wasn't night anymore. The sun was up, white and merciless. The town was alive. People walked past me, real people. Miners, shopkeepers, children running in the dust. The church bell rang once. Clear. It was San Florencio, but not abandoned. Not yet. I looked down. My uniform was clean, new. My badge shone like it had just been polished. Then I heard a voice behind me, deep, calm, familiar. Deputy Maddox. I turned. Sheriff Carver, my old mentor. Dead 20 years now. But here he was, hat in hand, smiling. You all right, son? He asked. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. You did good work tonight. That call at the station, the woman and her kid. Rough one. Go home, get some sleep. The woman and her kid? I echoed. What happened to them? He frowned. You don't remember? I shook my head. They didn't make it, he said softly. Gas leak in the substation apartment. You tried to get 'em out, but the door jammed. The air around us shimmered. The sun dimmed. I didn't make it either, I whispered. Carver smiled, sad. You never left, Earl. Whispering. The town started to fade again, color draining from buildings, people vanishing mid-step. The air peeled back into static. I was back in the church, candles gone cold, pews empty. The woman's voice whispered from everywhere at once. You keep opening the door every time you remember. I dropped to my knees. My body felt hollow. How do I stop it? Silence. Then the girl's voice, softer than breath. Stay. Static hum, heartbeat fading into distance. The church door slammed shut. The light went out. And the desert outside began to breathe. Wind rising, low thunder roll in distance. Which wind howling low, steady heartbeat. Darkness folded around me like a closing fist. The church was gone, or maybe I was. The air pressed tight, heavy, almost alive. I could still hear the child's voice echoing in my skull. Stay. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't kneeling anymore. I was standing in my cruiser. The dashboard lights glowed weakly. The clock read 3:12 a.m., same as before, always the same. Roofing clicked. Hum. Sheriff Maddox, do you copy? A reimbursement. My mouth was dry. My voice felt borrowed. The radio hissed again. Then faintly a second voice layered beneath dispatch. My voice. You can't leave, Earl. You're part of it now. I grabbed the mic, then the child's whisper. Daddy's home. I threw the mic onto the passenger seat. It landed on the notebook, the same one, still open, still filled with the words, you left the door open. But this time there was something new written beneath. Close it by remembering. I didn't understand what that meant, not then, but the words crawled under my skin, and I knew I had to see it through. The town lights flickered back to life. The diner, the substation, the church, all glowing faintly, waiting. I stepped out into the cold air, and the desert wind stung my eyes. Smith was empty, except for one figure standing in the middle, the woman. Her hair lifted slightly, though the air was still, her eyes hollow and calm. You kept us here, she said. You left the door open the night we died. What door? My voice cracked, useless. She tilted her head. You don't remember. The ground began to tremble, not from an earthquake, but from memory waking up. The buildings flickered between decades, bright, then burnt, then gone. The diner collapsed, rebuilt, collapsed again, looping like a heartbeat. Immigration. And then it came. The sound I hadn't let myself remember. The sound of fire. I could smell the smoke now. The gas leak, the ignition. I remembered pounding on the substation door, shouting for the woman and her daughter to move away, to stay calm. Then the explosion. I'd been thrown back, hit my head. The last thing I saw before everything went black was the girl's small hand pressed against the glass. I didn't save them. I'd come back that night to close up paperwork, left the door cracked open behind me like I always did. That was enough. The woman's stronger whisper layering, eyes bright in the flickering red-blue light. You left the door open, Earl, and the fire came through it. I dropped to my knees. I tried to save you. You did, she said gently, but not yourself. Sickness picked up, scattering ash that wasn't really there. Each piece glowed faintly, forming shapes in the air, faces, moments, echoes. All the nights I'd driven back here without remembering why. How many times? I whispered. She smiled faintly. Enough for you to ask. The child appeared beside her again. She held something small in her hands. My badge. The metal gleamed under the shifting light, but the number was wrong. Instead of 312, it read infinity. The girl stepped closer, lifted the badge to my chest, and pinned it there. It's yours, she said. It's always been yours. The moment the pin touched me, the air fractured. The entire town split open in light. The ground pulsed with memory, streets twisting into spirals, houses melting into dust. I saw every version of myself, every year, every loop, walking these same streets, making the same choices. 1,000 Earl Maddoxes reliving the same night, trying to make it right. The woman's voice rose over the chaos. You can't save what's already gone. The only way to end it, her voice broke, overlapping with the whispers, is to stay. The ground cracked beneath me. Flames seeped through, flickering with the color of old photographs. The church bell tolled once, then again slower. I felt something pull at me, just final. My body blurred at the edges, as if the desert was already claiming what it remembered. The child reached for my hand. Stay with us, Daddy. Close the door. I looked into her eyes and nodded. I'm tired, I said. The world began to fade. The lights dimmed. The voices softened into a single hum. As the darkness took me, I thought I heard the radio one last time. Dispatch to Sheriff Maddox. We just got another call from San Florencio. A woman's voice says he's coming back. The static built again, wrapping around everything, until all that was left was sound. Pure, hollow sound. Crimson hum grows, then gently fades. Let go. Unreliable. Misled, know how long I drifted. Could have been seconds. Could have been decades. The dock had no edges, only a low hum, like the desert breathing through a radio left on all night. Then light seeped in. A horizon, the rumble of tires on gravel. A voice broke through the static, younger, nervous, alive. Miss Dispatch, this is Deputy Ramirez. I'm en route to the coordinates from that 911 call. San Florencio ghost town, copy? I wanted to answer, but the words wouldn't come, because I wasn't breathing anymore. I was watching, The cruiser rolled to a stop on the same cracked asphalt I'd known for lifetimes. Red dust coiled around its wheels like smoke that had been waiting. The Mientos deputy stepped out. He was young, fresh uniform, too much confidence in his stance. He looked like me, the way I used to. Before the loops, before the remembering. He scanned the road. "Hello?" he called. "Sheriff's office?" No answer. Not even wind. The town waited, still and patient, windows glinting like half-closed eyes. The deputy's flashlight caught the old sheriff substation sign. He frowned. Didn't even know this was still standing. He moved toward it, voice steady but thin. "You know, dispatch, I'm starting to think this is one of those prank calls." Static only. Inside the substation, the air thickened again. He brushed dust off the front desk, off the calendar still frozen on October 1986. He coughed once, waved away cobwebs, then stopped when he saw the notebook. Emissions. He flipped it open, reading by flashlight. "You left the door open." He smirked a little. What the hell is this? Then the radio hissed alive. A woman's voice, soft and steady. "He's coming back." Stiffness rises briefly, then cuts. The deputy froze. "Repeat, dispatch, what was that?" No response. Spinal, just the whisper of the wind through the cracked window. He walked toward the back cells, boots crunching, breath uneven. His light passed over the walls across the word "stay" carved deep in rusted steel. He leaned closer, fingertips brushing the grooves. Cold. Too cold. Prohibition, faint, measured, came a knock. He turned fast. Nothing there. Missions, around softer now from inside the closed cell. "County Sheriff," he said, forcing bravado. "Identify yourself." Misinformation. Only I slid through the dark. "You shouldn't be here, Sheriff." Sickness. Scrimmage. "Who's there?" Silence. Then a breath close to his ear. "Earl Maddox." He spun, flashlight shaking, beam landing on the corner of the cell floor. A small body cam lay there, red light blinking. Mission still recording. He picked it up, pressed play. The tiny speaker filled the room with static, then a voice. Mine, trembling, exhausted. "Don't let him out. Don't open the door." The deputy whispered, "Jesus." Then came the final part of the recording. The child's voice, soft and distant. "Daddy's home." The deputy dropped the camera. It clattered, lens spinning toward the door. In its reflection, for a heartbeat, he saw a figure behind him, the shape of a man in an old sheriff's uniform, badge glinting with the number infinity. He turned. The radio came alive again. Overlapping voices, male and female, whispering through static. "You left the door open." "You left the door open." "You left the—" Devancy snatched the mic. "Dispatch, I'm leaving this place." But there was only one reply. Too late. The floor trembled. The light bulbs overhead flared white, then burst. The walls breathed, in and out, dust shifting like lungs filling with memory. He ran for the exit, stumbling into the street. The whole town glowed now, soft amber light pouring from every building, and for a brief second, He saw them all. Dismissed the diners full again, the miners laughing, the church bells ringing. And me, standing in the doorway, smiling the way I used to. He shouted my name, but his voice came out wrong, like it had to travel through water. The wind screamed down the street. The neon sign flickered, sputtered, died. One last flash illuminated the sheriff's office window. Behind the glass, 2 figures. A woman and a girl, holding hands, smiling. Then darkness swallowed the town whole. Static seeped back in, thin at first, then louder. Pensions through it came the same old dispatch voice, calm, routine. "Attention all units. We just received a 911 call from San Florencio. Missions, female caller. Said he's coming back." The recording stuttered, looped, distorted until it sounded less like a report and more like a memory, repeating itself. Coming back. Coming back. Coming back. Sleep rose again, tugging at the desert sand, carrying voices that had nowhere left to go. He, through the hum, a final whisper. Close, intimate, right next to the mic. "Is, if you're hearing this, it already knows you." You don't believe me, do you? Then, through the hum,